7:31. Julie, if you can start the recording.
Yes, it has been recording.
Is it recording? Okay, it is recording. Perfect. Okay, we'll officially start the meeting at 7:31, knowing that, oh, we already have Doran. Perfect. So we've got a loud dog in the background, and we have our quorum. So we'll officially start the quorum. And I may put us onto mute for a moment. All right, we're officially starting the meeting. And why don't we start with the meeting minutes, which were distributed. Please take a moment to review. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. All right, so I would entertain, well, first, we've reviewed the motion, or we've reviewed the minutes. Are there any comments or edits? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes in a second.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, so Chris made the motion. Tom, that was you seconding. Perfect. Is there any discussion? All right.
Very thorough as usual.
Roll call vote.
Chris Aldis and I.
Tom Daly, aye.
Steve Winter, aye.
Doran Hole, aye.
And Tanya Bodell, aye. So the minutes pass unanimously. I have asked the committee members or the committee chairs who have held meetings to try to get meeting minutes in before the end of the year. So if you've served on any of those committees, if you could please encourage the leader to call a quick meeting where you can approve the meeting minutes and then approve like a shortened pre-distributed meeting minutes for the approval of the minutes. Then we can get those posted and have a complete set before the end of the year. So it's just house cleaning that we need to do. All right. Excellent. Okay, so what's next? Oh, one other thing, since we're talking about house cleaning. If you haven't, I think most of us may need to renew our ethics training. And this is about a 1-hour program, and I can distribute in the meeting minutes and distribute to everybody the link to go to the ethics training. I think everybody has done it at least once, and some people have been doing it every 2 years for the past, 2 decades. So it's time to renew for some of us, including myself. So just a reminder that we need to keep active ethics training certifications at the clerk's office. And once you finish the training, you can then get the certificate and send it in, and they can keep that on record. So if you have received that reminder, please take your training. If you haven't, please check to make sure it's still active. It never hurts to take the training again, and we'll be all up to date.
Tanya, if we're due to get a refresher on our training, will we have gotten an email about it, or? Because I don't remember whether I need to take it again or not.
You can check with the clerk. I did receive an email, and I think I am due, although 2019, yeah, so,
I've received a reminder and I know I'm due.
okay.
That's a great point. I can send out an email to the clerks because I'm gonna check for other boards as well. So I'll let you know what they come back with.
Thanks.
That'd be great, Julia. And then Julia, maybe you could distribute the link for us. That would be fabulous.
Sure.
Great. Okay, next is Julia. Julia, could you give us an update on the plethora of things that you've been taking the lead on and where the town is on some of these issues?
Sure. Do you mind if I go out of order? I'm gonna start with the level 3 chargers. So, following the October 10th AEC meeting, October 11th, an email was sent to the teams at both Innovis and National Grid, stating that the subcommittee and the committee's consensus regarding the site host agreements for the level 3 chargers, and letting them know that while the current incentives were attractive, the committee deferred the opportunity to allow for further exploration of our alternative sites. The AEC subcommittee's comments and discussion items were listed for their review, so they have a clear understanding of the reasoning behind the deferral. We received response from both Amanda Formica at National Grid and Tony Parenti at Innovis. Amanda mentioned that she will be forwarding our conclusion to the National Grid EV team and advising them that Cohasset's application will be withdrawn as the town explores alternative locations. Tony Parenti responded that the town's current approvals are going to be canceled and that the programs have now gone on a wait list. So that's meaning the submission of other sites face a higher unlikeliness of getting approved due to the large number of applicants ahead in the queue. And they explained that in the meeting on October 10th. The next steps, to my knowledge, would be to transition back to the AEC or the AEC subcommittee for brainstorming and determination of new sites. Jumping to green communities, with assistance from the assistant town manager, Michelle Leary, and Lisa Sullivan, the green communities regional coordinator. The annual report for fiscal year 2024 was submitted on November 15th. The next round for green communities applications will be around March 2025. Facilities director Nick Berardi has the following projects in the queue: the destratification fans for the DPW garage and Osgood school cafeteria, and also an HVAC control system for the Paul Pratt Library. Also, if you got my email on October 21st, it's a little last minute, but they're holding the first Green Community Summit tomorrow at the Devons Conference Center from 9 a.m. to 3:30. For anyone that's interested in attending, it is free. I think Debbie is going to be attending that. The National Grid MOU, this has been in the queue for quite some time, and I've followed up with Michelle a few times. I have confirmation that she will have the MOU to Debbie, hopefully by tomorrow at the latest. The electric school bus lease.
Hold on, Julia, what does that mean? She will have the MOU to Debbie by tomorrow.
So I didn't get in contact with her towards this afternoon. But I'm not sure. I don't have the answer on that one.
Oh, just a question about that. I happened to be talking to Debbie and she mentioned that she was going to talk to you and Tanya yesterday. Did that happen? Did you have a meeting about this?
So we did meet this morning for the ongoing initiatives for the AEC. Typically with the a, a representative from town management. Michelle could not make it, but she had sent the MOU to town council last week, I believe, so.
Oh, so
waiting
the
to
meeting
hear.
this morning was just you and Debbie?
And Tanya.
Oh, Tanya was there too. Okay.
And then finally, the National Grid vehicle inventory. This is still under review from me. I don't have a report for this month's meeting. I'm going to contact National Grid and just review the documents they sent me regarding the assessment that they did, which actually was dated March of 2023. So I will have an update to you on that in December.
Great. And on that one, once you get your arms around it, you'll help us get our arms around it at the next meeting. And then we as a committee can decide, is there an existing fleet assessment committee? Do we need to reconstitute that to help you and figure out what we're going to do about the information? Are there next steps for us to pursue?
Great.
And the next steps might be something as simple as those committee members, subcommittee members present the fleet assessment to the capital planning committee so they're aware that it exists and think about how they can incorporate it into their decisions. But there may be more.
Absolutely.
I think we just want to make sure that type of work and information doesn't go to waste. All right. Is there anything else, Julia?
That is all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
So thank you for the update. And thank you for being our liaison to the town.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Appreciate all your help. Okay, next is Steve with an update on community aggregation.
What can I say about that? Let's see, we have the go-ahead to do our marketing campaign, but we haven't really started, except that I wrote an article in or a posting in Class at 143 Facebook, and there was Chris posted something in his weekly newsletter. So I promised to get a letter article for the Anchor. I haven't done that yet. And Debbie's anxious to get going on our Penny for the Planet campaign to encourage people to upgrade to the 100% option. But that's about all I can tell you at the moment.
Steve, do you have a copy of the letter that went out to everybody?
Yes.
Or has everybody received the community aggregation notice?
Well, as far as I know, now what do you mean by everybody?
Ooh, Chris.
I have been communicating with the Good Energy about the problem of getting communications to people who initially decided not to enroll in the program, sent the no thank you card back originally, and let's see, what did Good Energy tell me? Because originally the rules are very clear that the Department of Public Utilities didn't said that you could never contact these people again. But then there was some revision in their policies early in the summer, and I didn't review this stuff before the meeting here, so now it's a little hazy in my mind what they said. But I think there's still a problem with that. And then I asked them about what about people with third-party contracts? Is there some way that we can send them a separate letter to inform them about the program and tell them that they can join the aggregation if they want to, because they also do not get any communication or have not got any communication yet. And the answer to that was yes, but the problem is getting the names and addresses together, and that has to come not from National Grid, but from the was it Good Energy or what's the name of our our supplier? It escapes me at the moment. Our energy supplier for the aggregation has to get that information from National Grid and then forward that list to Good Energy to do the mailing. Anyways, it's a administratively a problem, a bit of a headache, and they don't know when they can get it together. But they do have the Department of Public Utilities has okayed that procedure for doing it, but the DPU specified this roundabout way where you have to go from the public owned utility, National Grid, to the aggregation energy supplier to the consultant. So it's awkward that way, and they couldn't give me any date as to when they'll be able to send those letters out. But I would really like to make sure that everybody in town, regardless of their previous participation in the program, is alerted to the program and knows that they can participate if they want to. I think we'd get a lot more, the people with third-party contracts, like Debbie was on a third-party contract, but she canceled that and got on the program because it's a lot cheaper now for her. And that would be the case with a lot of people, I think. One thing that had puzzled me was that the prices went down a couple cents. So, the prices are cheaper now than they were in the first term, which is good, and locked in for 3 years. But I've been hearing from meetings with the state government officials and climate groups that everybody's expecting prices to shoot way up. And why is that? Well, of course, our aggregation price is just for the supply. You also have the distribution charge. And it's the distribution charges, which I guess are likely to go up because of expenses that the utilities will incur in upgrading the wires, the distribution lines and transmission lines and so forth. So people may see their bills go up even though the aggregation price goes down just because of the distribution charge. I don't have any details on that, but I think that's the situation.
I think that's just a broader concern across multiple utility districts, Steve. The transmission and distribution charges and the costs are going up, and the utilities have to continue to rate base it. I think as long as our supply is coming in cheaper, then you'll still be able to kind of put that data out there that residents can get a better deal by signing.
Yeah, right. Residents still save money compared to the utility.
Because it's going to
it
doesn't matter who they choose, those other costs are going to go up.
I was initially a little confused when I kept hearing that the electricity prices were going to go up and going down for aggregation until I realized that I wasn't thinking of the distribution charges. But yes.
Yeah. Steve, are these rules only specifically around the ability to actually put stuff in the mail to these particular residents? I assume there's no restriction on our ability to promote the program more generally.
No, there's no restriction on us promoting the program. It's just that there was that rule that the DPU said that if somebody said that they didn't want to be part of the program or they canceled,
if they opt
then
out,
they couldn't receive a mailing from us any longer, from Good Energy, I guess, about the program. They couldn't be in the regular enrollment mailing. But there's no reason why we can't contact them, other ways, I guess. Now, I don't know if that rule has been, I'm a little bit confused, and I think the Good Energy consultant was a little bit confused too, and he was gonna consult with his lawyer about that as to exactly what the situation is now, because I don't think the aggregation consultants have fully digested the changes in the DPU aggregation program requirements that were implemented late or early last summer. So I'm not quite sure about that. I am sure about the contacting people with
Right.
third-party contracts, though. They never got a letter originally in the program, so we could contact them, and it's simply a matter of getting their names and addresses.
Got it. Okay.
All right, and I have, as does Chris, and I will, I've already took pictures and I will send it so that we can include it in the meeting minutes, and maybe we can post the letter on our webpage as well, related to the Cohasset Community Electricity. Also, I just want to warn that we're in the winter period, so the savings that we have now may not continue to be the case the next time Eversource changes its basic service rate. So
That's true, but don't we normally expect them to increase their price in their winter? So in January, they'll change their prices and.
yeah, so their price I think is through January. And so we'll get a new price in February. That's probably going to include February into the spring, which is usually very mild, summer, which can have some higher prices, but not as bad as winter, and into the fall. So depending on the period of time that they take, it could end up being lower like it did last time. But we're in the process of doing an assessment against what the price has been versus what the community aggregation program has charged. And we'll see how it turns out. But sometimes
Yeah, I mean,
it's
we
higher.
have verified that Cohasset residents in the program have saved money relative to what they would have paid if they had been in National Grid's basic rate.
Right, and we were supposed to get that calculation.
Yeah, we got it. It was around $700, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yes, so they have, and that we put that in the letter. I put that in the posting on Facebook, and I don't know if it was in Chris's letter, Chris's newsletter or not. But anyways, yes. So we did verify that residents did a good thing if they participate in the program. They saved themselves money, and that was also they had less, they had more green energy in their program than the National Grid did too. So they won both ways. It did something good for the planet, and they also saved themselves some money. So it was a win-win.
And did we get the underlying calculations or just the final result?
Oh, they did calculations. They gave us the exact numbers, did all the numbers.
Oh, with the
Good
calculation?
Energy. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love
you
to see
mean-
that, Steve. Can you send that around?
Okay, I'll have to look it up. I don't have it at my fingertips at the moment, but
No, I don't need it now.
Actually, it would be great to include that in the minutes if possible.
okay.
I agree. I'd love to get that in the minutes.
Sorry, I
Sorry,
gotta go.
That's you. So Martha, I think we're
Okay,
getting an
sorry
echo
about that.
from you. Is that better? Okay, that's better. Okay, Steve, thank you for the update. Martha, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
No, that's all right. Okay, well, that's good. And Steve, yes, please send that around because I don't think I've
Sure.
seen it either. And I agree with Martha. It'd be good to put that in the meeting minutes. And Martha, I'll send you the pictures of the letter that has come out
wonderful.
that has the new prices.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
All right, great. All right, School Facilities Committee. Tom, I know there's been activity on this. I don't know if you've been able to monitor it, but I hear different things about the Osgood roof,
Up to what?
as do you. So where are we on that? Do you know?
No, and I've communicated it several times and have gotten zero response. And I'm not seeing anything posted online either on the school facilities committee website. So I'll dig into it. I might just have to make a trip over there and see what's going on. That's the only way to.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out to the school committee members as well.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do. I'll have to do something because it's just been crickets.
And there was, so my understanding is, and Julia, you might have an update as well, that the Osgood School has been approved for replacement of the roof. That the school committee was excited, went to capital planning and the select board, but I heard mixed messages about how that went, and I don't know why. But from the perspective of Massachusetts being willing to give some money to Cohasset to replace the school roof, my understanding is Osgood is eligible, but I don't know the terms. I don't know what the town would have to come up with. I don't know why there's reluctance or if there's no reluctance, but there seems to be some excitement among some quarters that the school roof will be replaced and we can look at it as a potential site for solar panels.
That is exactly what I've heard too, and nothing more, nothing less. None of the gory details.
And Julia, do you have any additional information on what's happening with the roofs? Any additional to what I just described?
Unfortunately, at this time, I do not. But that is something I will follow up with Michelle Leary on when I see her next.
Okay, and if you can also find out from Michelle who she thinks Tom should be in touch with.
Okay.
I thought this was being handled by the school facilities committee.
It's
But-
not, I don't think.
Okay, so then maybe it's directly with the school committee or the schools, in which case maybe keeping close to Susan Owen would be the way to go, or Susan Owen and a member of the school committee. But Julie, if you could find out from Michelle if she has any ideas about who Tom should be in touch with to be able to give us updates on a monthly
will.
basis. Great, thank you. Okay, data report, Chris.
All right, let me share. Hold on a second. Not sure what happened to it. There we go. Let's see if that works. Share. All right. Do you see something?
Yes.
Do you see the dashboard?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
No, we
Here,
don't.
I'm displaying something else. Okay, so here it is. I mean, just some of the basics. The unique drivers, about the same, 97 September. There's a high of 108 in June in this chart, 93 in October. Number of sessions, though, to the right actually increased pretty bit dramatically from 272 to 339. And the energy usage is the highest it's been in the last 5 months, 4.36 megawatt hours. And I think that's the highlights.
That's very interesting, Chris. So we saw a big dip after we started charging and now it's coming back up again.
Yes. Yeah, did I send you that data set, Martha? Because I haven't looked at that recently.
I don't think so.
Okay. Here we can look at energy session July today. Last update. So this is the energy used, and remind me, when did we start charging for it, Martha? Do you recall?
I think it was September of last year or September. Was it September 2023? So it won't be on this chart.
Okay. Oh,
Well, nonetheless, it's really interesting, isn't it?
I wonder, and I only say this because I now am the proud owner of an EV and have been availing myself of the level 2 charger that's 1 block away from my house. Oh yeah, there you go.
so this is August of 23, quite
Uh-huh.
high. And this is energy. So it sort of looks like it's not recovered from the
Mm-mm,
once we start charging it.
mm-mm.
And this is the sessions. Sessions, interestingly, aren't as dramatically down as much as the energy. That's interesting.
So we also instituted, and I don't know when we instituted it, but it'd be useful to know. It was after we started charging for the energy. At some point, I think this year, we started charging idling fees. And also, if you're charging at a spot for more than 4 hours, you get a fixed hourly price as well. So a couple of people who weren't aware of it and were ignoring their notices on their app ended up having some pretty expensive charging sessions because they left the car overnight.
Oh.
Mm. Ouch.
Oh,
Yes.
it's like $5 an hour. So it adds up quickly with $5 an hour. So even if the energy is not being consumed, I think we've also seen an increase in our revenues. And Chris, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that or if you can look at it with the if this portal gives us that information.
Yeah,
But-
it has a revenue line. I'm not sure, a revenue category. I'm not sure what this revenue is. Maybe I think it's probably gross revenue. Julie and I we're trying to get a hold of somebody there, Julie, to ask him that. Is that right?
Yeah, so for right now, I have the monthly statements. I emailed to you for the calendar year of 2024 and then partial of 2023. And then I just tossed that into an Excel sheet just so it could be visualized instead of looking at the PDFs. But we put in a ticket with ChargePoint because our permissions don't allow us to see the Flex billing monthly statements right now.
Do you have that spreadsheet? Can we take a look at it?
So do you have that, Julie? I'll stop sharing.
Hold on one second.
Chris, could you screenshot some of those and send those to Martha so she can include them in the appendix?
Yeah, sure. I've sent you the dashboard already, Martha. I'll send you some of these other things.
Great, thank you.
Okay, are you able to hold on? Are you able to see my screen?
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they come in PDF format. And so this is a combined document for 10 out of the 12 months for 2024. I won't go through that because it's harder to read. I just put them all in a Excel sheet so that you can see them all in one place. So here you can see the partial for 2023, and then the remainder is 2024.
Actually,
Now,
so
We're
you'll
still
need
seeing
to,
your email screen.
yeah, we're still seeing your email page.
Oh, sorry.
you need to unshare and then share again to get the new document.
Okay. Okay, are you able to see it?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So here you can see the 2023 partial, don't have the full year as of right now, but working on that. And this is up until October of 2024 with a semi-helpful chart.
So this is the revenue to the town, right? This is
Yes,
this is what the town earns every month, which is different than what is collected at the meter.
right.
And do we know sort of what the what the arrangement is? What, and how do we get paid? I mean,
I do not know, but that's something I can find out.
you know,
So action item, Chris, could you work with Julia and the ChargePoint folks to just sort of get our arms around what these numbers represent?
yeah,
Because 1,700 a month is a pretty nice number. But I think we also have to net off what the cost of the electricity is.
yes, yeah. So we have to figure out. I guess we pay for the electricity. They collect. We at a rate. We charge the consumer at a rate. ChargePoint collects it and gives us a portion of it. So understanding all those numbers. Okay, Julia. Well, we can confab the next few days and figure out how we're going to peel that back.
Okay.
Well, I wonder if I can make a couple of comments. Let's see. One thing is, I wonder if you guys saw the article in the New York Times, I think it was last week, about chargers and company, private enterprises that have been putting chargers in, like Stop and Shop here in town. It was quite interesting that they said that early on, when chargers are first being installed, I don't, was it about 5 years ago or so, that they weren't really used very much, and some businesses kind of regretted the expense of putting them in. In fact, some businesses even took them out after they put them in because they weren't being used that much. But then the last couple of years, usage has picked up, and companies, they've done studies actually, and they found that the charging stations are doing exactly what the businesses hope, is driving traffic to them. And they mentioned some supermarkets or whatever, they've seen an uptick in their in their business that they attribute to the chargers. So now kind of the zeitgeist is that they're happy that they put these in. I thought I'd try this Stop and Shop's charger, so I went over there, and they're free, and there's 2 of them, and they work well. And so I did a little grocery shopping, and then wasted time in the car reading my email and whatnot, and I got my car charged. At the same time, the other port was pretty much fully occupied the whole time. One guy came in, he charged, he did some shopping. When I came back and drove away, another guy came in, and he was there when I left. So yeah, it seems like it's doing what Stop and Shop might have hoped for. It's getting customers into their store. So anyway, I just wanted to relate that article, and it was New York Times did a journalist article about the nation as a whole, how this was going. So that's quite encouraging that businesses were actually reaping some return from their chargers. Other thing I wanted to mention was that I talk about this at our last meeting? I can't remember. Did I talk about my experience with the Hingham's chargers? I can't remember whether I did that or not, but anyways, I tried Hingham's chargers. They have 2 charging locations, and I forget whether they have 4 or 6 or 6 or 8 rather, 6 or 8 chargers. I forget because I've never been to the second location, but they have 4 ports at the Station Street location. 2 of them are level 3 and 2 of them are level 2. Level 3s didn't work for me because I didn't have the right adapter for my Tesla. So I charged in level 2. And their prices is cheaper than what we're charging here in Cohasset. I've forgotten exactly what the price is, but it is cheaper than what we're charging. And I had a conversation with Brianna Bennett, who is on the whole light board, is their sustainability coordinator or manager, whatever. And she sent me I asked her for some numbers on their usage, and she sent me a spreadsheet with every single charging session they had over the past year, and I tallied it up, and they'd made about $20,000 in charges, so Brianna and I talked about that, and they're happy about that. The whole light board feels like they're making money on their chargers, and so it's working out well for them. The one problem is they use Flow, not ChargePoint, but Flow. And they're a little bit unhappy with Flow because they won't accept normal credit cards. And I think maybe ChargePoint is the same way. You have to open an account. So they're hoping they would prefer a vendor that would allow people to charge with just a normal credit card. But anyways, other than that, they seem to be having a good experience with them.
Hey, Steve, I sent you that article you mentioned around to everybody. Looks like I just looked at it quickly. There's a lot more information in it. It's quite interesting.
Oh, and you talking about the New York Times article?
Yeah,
or?
New York Times, right?
Oh yeah, you saw it. Did I send that to you? Did you send it to me?
No, I just looked it up and sent it around.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting article, and so I recommend people take a look at it.
Did you send that by email, Chris?
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Great update, Steve, and interesting to hear from Hingham what's happening there. And it's also good to know there are level 3 chargers in the town next door. Both Hingham and Scituate, I believe, has a level 3 charger as well.
They charge more for the level 3 charger, however, but I guess that's only fair.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what I've found with Electrify America, for example, their business model is to put level 3 chargers at malls. And so between here and Winnipesaukee, there are 3 level 3 charging areas on the I-93 or close to the I-93, and they tend to be by malls. That's just their business model. But the price they charge is the equivalent of a gallon of gas for the same miles on the EV. So they've figured out that the price of the next best alternative is gasoline, and the level 3 charger is basically priced at the same dollar per mile as the average MPG car.
That's really
Interesting.
sense.
Well,
That's-
Tesla is still claiming that their supercharger prices are cheaper than gasoline per mile.
Not true. Not true. I've done the calculation.
Have you? Okay.
Well,
I'm not surprised they're
a
lying.
few times. I mean, it's probably varies. I mean, the rates vary quite a bit on the East Coast. So just FYI, in that article, it talks about Mercedes-Benz having charging stations that include a lounge, special landscaping, and so on. So this could be, you could be a destination, destination charging goes to the Mercedes-Benz lounge. They're investing $1 billion in a set of charging lounges.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All All right. I can share the solar energy array data. Unless Chris, you have it.
I do not have it.
All right, let me share my screen. And see if I can find it. Oh,
Who sent it around? Do you know, remember what's his name?
it'd be Scott Kaplan. He's supposed to be copying you, but I'm not sure he
Yeah,
is.
I think maybe he is. Let me see if I can find this. Scott Kaplan.
That's
Oh,
I'm going
There
to
we
screenshot this, put it into a Word document so that I can find the Word document easier.
oh, I have an email from February.
Oh, so you know
Not
what? Let me
helpful.
respond to him and just remind him to put you on.
Yeah, I think he did. I just don't can't. Not coming up.
All right. So I will share. I have it
Hmm.
now. Zooming in, our solar landfill project net benefits to the town is marching towards $500,000.
Hmm.
Wow. Oh, by the way, did that fire affect our solar array production at all? You know?
I'm not aware. I don't think so.
Okay, because I know they cut off the electricity to the landfill site. And I didn't know, I was curious to know whether that was also turning off the electricity from the solar array.
That's a good question.
There was I sent around a note, and I'm gonna have to dig up the emails. Someone went and asked, Tanya, it might have been Julia, it might have been you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we got a firm response. When I first saw the article or the notice about that fire, that was my first reaction, was like, uh-oh, we might have to shut down and wait for that to come back together. But I think it might be that the transfer facility that caught on fire didn't interrupt any of the connectivity to the solar array. So we may have kept running.
I've not heard that it was down, and I would think Scott and Gordon Dean would have let us know if there was an issue.
So, but you've got an October, when was the fire? It was in October, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like the October numbers would indicate any meaningful reduction in production.
Might have been beginning of November.
Yeah. Well, now that we've said it, I'm gonna try to take a quick look and see if I can find what was said.
Yeah, we're in the winter period, so during this
Yeah.
time, the capacity factor of the solar energy array is only 10% or less. So that's why you can see a pattern where in the January period, December, January, when it's darkest and the days are shortest and there's overcast because of snow and rain, we get less solar energy. So we're about to enter into that. But then summer is definitely our heyday. So, and you can also see, having some familiarity with what our supply price is under the community aggregation program, which is under the Cohasset standard 14.289 cents per kilowatt hour. If you compare that to the net metering credit rate, where it's not 14.289, but it's more like 25 cents per kilowatt hour. That is because our net metering credit is not just the supply price, it also includes the distribution and the transmission charges that we get to avoid because we're a municipality, and the program at the time allowed for the municipalities to be able to get the full net metering credit equal to the supply plus the delivery charges.
So Tanya, do we get that? I mean, that's a avoidance, or is that's not a?
Yeah,
does-
that's the credit. We get that as a credit. So for every kilowatt hour that's produced by the landfill, we pay 8.8 cents. That's in this fixed electric rate to the town.
Right,
And the credit we get on our bill, a lot of which goes to the schools, is, for example, in October 2024, 24.856 cents per kilowatt hour. So the difference between that 25 cents and the 8.8 cents is the savings that we get. That difference times the kilowatt hours produced is equal to the net benefit to the town.
so I'm just, so, the fixed electric rate, so the 8.8 cents, who do we pay that to? We pay that to Palmer, or we pay that to
We pay that to Palmer.
Palmer? And then National Grid says, okay, tell us how much you produced, and gives us a credit for 24.8.
Yeah, they basically they know how much electricity has been produced because there's a meter that is National Grid's meter. So they measure how much electricity is produced by the solar energy array, and they pay us that credit against the town accounts for the energy that's generated at the solar energy array. So we pay Palmer Capital 8.8 cents. National Grid pays us, the town, 25 cents for every
Like they're
kilowatt hour.
reimbursing. There's something conceptual I'm not understanding. Let me think about my question and I'll come back.
I have some charts I can send you on how this
All right.
works.
All right.
But the concept from National Grid is, think of it simply, because for residents, they were only reimbursing for the supply costs. They're saying, look, you're giving us supply, you're giving us energy, so we're going to pay you for that energy. That's energy that we, National Grid, do not have to buy from the ISO system to service our customers, because you're putting it into the system. So we'll pay you for that under the net metering rate, but we're only going to pay for the supply. But for the towns, the municipalities, the program at the time said, if you're a municipality, we'll actually pay you more for the energy. We'll pay you for the supply plus the transmission and distribution. It's
So
tied to an avoided
the production of the
cost.
solar array goes right into National Grid's pool of electricity. Okay. And then so we're metered all over the place in town, and we pay the going rate at our meters, but National Grid says, hey, listen, you contributed 28,000 kilowatt hours, so we're going to pay you for it.
Yep.
Interesting. That's a pretty sweet deal, isn't it? They'd include the distribution charge.
Well, this is the thing about solar located there, because once it gets through the inverters and the AC power goes into the substation, and then we're almost using it locally. Like, it doesn't have to go into the transmission grid. It doesn't have to be distributed around. It effectively gets used by the town. It gets used by electricity users in the town, because it's sort of local in the distribution network. And that's one of the arguments, I think, from a policy perspective, why they agreed to reimburse that way.
So is that because they have distribution cost avoidance?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And transmission cost avoidance.
There's less power that they have to yeah, exactly. There's less power that they have to move into our substations.
Got it. And this sort of deal, Tanya, is not available anymore.
No.
Yeah.
They've gotten more parsimonious over time. And then they come up with a new version and set the price. And so there's a lot of moving parts. There's also potential tariffs coming up again under a Trump administration that may kill some of the economics. And anytime there's inflation or higher interest rates, that makes it very costly as well, because it's solar panels are almost 100% upfront cost, right? It's an upfront capital cost with zero fuel cost, some O&M, but not a lot. So most of the expense associated with renewable energy, such as the solar panels, are the financing costs.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so the higher the interest rates, the higher the financing costs, the higher the break even rate has
Yep.
to be so everybody can get paid what they need to get paid to pay the
And then
debt
with the-
holders and the equity holders.
When the tariffs go in, then the capital expenditures go up as well because the components that you're buying from China, price goes up. And so what that would mean, if you try to replicate what's in front of us now, that 8.8 cents would go up substantially.
Yeah, the consumers don't pay the tariffs.
Well, the consumers don't pay the tariff
Funny.
directly, but I would argue that indirectly they do.
Yeah, that was a joke if you didn't.
Yeah.
Being facetious.
Good.
I could see the tongue in the
That's
cheek.
it.
I saw that little.
I didn't see him come on the screen. I'm sorry. I was staring at the numbers.
I have solar panels on my roof and behind the meter, so I'm essentially getting reimbursed for the distribution cost as well.
You are.
Yes, and so when I tally out my economics, I count that in. I put it in about 7 years ago, and I broke even in 4.5 years. It's terrific.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Chris, are you using the electricity directly in your house?
The vast majority of it. Yeah, I mean, on average, I only produce about 26% of what I need, just because I don't have the biggest part of the roof is behind a tree.
Chris, I'm a little confused about how that works. So you have a solar array and you consume the electricity behind the meter. So National Grid doesn't even know about it.
Right, that's right. So when I produce more, I run my meter in reverse.
Yeah, if you had the meter on the outside, then National Grid would know and would only, well, so they would.
I would expect you're not using 100% of what you're producing during the day, though, would you? I think when you look at a
Portions of the day, I'll be excess, like on a sunny fall day when I don't have the pool pump running and
Right.
heat fans running, et cetera. Yes, I'm producing excess stuff and
Yeah. And your meter goes backwards.
my meter goes
That's what
backwards.
But if it's not time of use, if it's just a kilowatt hour meter, the timing doesn't matter.
Right.
Should
Timing.
not
If he has a
Massachusetts.
traditional household meter.
Yeah.
Not
This is,
Massachusetts.
by the way, in California, if you install solar, they require you to do time of use rates
Mhm.
to
Oh, really?
track what you're putting back into the grid.
Yeah.
And they only pay the supply charge, the supply price.
That's the new net metering rules in California, which are not particularly friendly.
No, not friendly to solar. Not friendly to
Luckily,
solar.
Massachusetts hasn't gone that direction. That's one of the reasons why batteries have become so popular in California.
Why,
Yes.
why is that?
Allows you
Why
to-
is that?
It allows you to store the power that you generate during the times when you can't sell it to the grid, or when they won't pay you very much for it. So you use the batteries to hold the power, and then you use it at night.
But why has California become unfriendly?
Because the utilities were getting upset about how much
Yeah.
money they were paying for solar and
Got it.
how much usage and business they were losing
I see. Yeah,
because they make
think-
money on volume.
right.
Utilities is the answer.
Yes. The 800-pound gorilla in every electricity room.
Yeah, that's right.
It caught up to them.
Yeah. And I'm sure there were all sorts of eloquent arguments about how it's unfair to people who don't own homes
Mhm.
and they don't get the benefit and it's a social justice issue
Yep.
and it's costing everybody else. So there were all sorts of arguments about it, but they tightened up. They used to be very generous.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, they do still have some subsidies to help defray the cost of the solar. So you can get the paybacks in 3 to 5 years still, like Chris was saying, if you're using it directly for your own usage. And that, that's used for hot water heaters. It's used for the swimming pools to heat the pools. It's used for the electric vehicles. If they combine it with a battery, they can make better use of it. So it's very innovative, actually, out in California. They also have much higher capacity factors. So on their solar energy arrays.
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, I mean, Dorn, you probably know, but I think in Massachusetts, our capacity factors, like the percentage of time that the solar energy array produces electricity on average over the course of the year is like 13.5%.
Yeah,
50% maybe at a commercial larger scale.
right. And I haven't looked at it in context of percentages. I think about the number of megawatt hours of generated electricity over the course of a year, and it's 175% easily versus Massachusetts and California. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the capacity factors are more like 25%.
Yeah, it's
So-
a massive difference.
It's like double because they have the longer days. There's more southern and they have more sun.
Longer generation times and more sun.
I think Texas, I've seen 30%. So it is, we have the solar profile of Germany, basically.
That's why the government incentives count.
Yep. Incentives are important.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. So our solar energy array keeps going. And I do think, again, there's a lot of moving factors, not the least of which is the timing of the replacement of the school roofs. The good news is because of our ongoing communications, the school committee thinks about it now. When they think of replacing the school roof, I think their next thought is, oh, and we could put solar panels on there and save more money. The town is only getting about 10% of its energy from the solar energy array. So the percentage of our total town municipality usage is only 10% is covered by the solar energy array. So we have a lot of headroom to keep putting more solar panels out there. It's just a question of figuring out where to put them. And Steve has spent more time than I trying to figure out where the locations in town where the solar panels would be best placed. And most certainly the landfills tend to be the best if you can get the permissions for the post-closure use permits. The second are the school roofs, which happen to be some of the largest, flattest roofs that we have in town. And they also tend to be the largest users of electricity in the town. Their load is some of the largest. So because of climate control and the lights, often which are left on at night. So it makes sense as soon as a roof gets replaced, or it looks like it's getting replaced, we will probably want to sponsor again a warrant article before the town to get approval to lease the replaced school roof for solar energy panels. And hopefully we would get that approval as we have in the past and would be able to go out to bid in a competitive request for proposal because it's considered a disposition of an asset. By leasing the roof, we are disposing of an asset, and that requires a 30B procurement for the town. So we've gone through this before. We've done it twice before. The last time was 2020. And it's just, good hygiene to keep testing the market and letting them know we're in play. But I think things may be coming to a head. So that bullet that's always on the agenda about the solar energy array, microgrids for the schools may finally start becoming active once the school roofs are replaced. And I think Deer Hill is next up. So their roof will probably be replaced in the next couple of years as well.
Hey, not to digress, do we own the land where the sailing club and the lightkeepers and the harbor masters are? Does town own it?
I don't know.
We could put panels there? Just a consideration.
Yeah, no, look, we're always open to where we can put panels. We did go to vote to get permission to put panels by the water plant on Pond Street, at the end of Pond Street, and we were rejected because we didn't have a specific location. We were thinking we'd put it on where the old landfill was, which isn't very big, but at the end of the day, the town was afraid, and there was a lot of fear mongering about what a beautiful pathway, nature, the pond would look like with a bunch of solar panels sitting on it. We've also contemplated on a high level, Steve Girardi looked into whether or not floating solar panels made sense. There
Ah.
are, especially in California, where evaporation is a big issue, and they put little black plastic balls on top of the water to prevent the evaporation. Having solar panels on the water actually has a lot of benefits for open waterways, but it's just that much more expensive. And I think it did not pencil out with the low solar capacity factors.
Oh, on that topic, it's interesting. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but a few years ago, I went to a meeting of the Duxbury Energy Committee, and some guy who cranberry farmer made a presentation to the Energy Committee there. He wanted to put exactly that, solar arrays on his cranberry bogs, and he said they wouldn't even interfere with harvesting the cranberries. He had it figured out. I don't know whatever came of that. I don't think he got permission to do it or decided not to do it. But anyway, I thought it was really interesting idea.
Stephen, actually, a number of those sites did end up getting built.
Oh,
Most of the folks who developed them ended up not being horribly happy, primarily because the cost to install ended up being quite a lot more than expected.
oh,
And as a
interesting.
result, the economics didn't actually work out. Of course, when you're developing solar here in Massachusetts, you're really relying on smart program incentives to actually get, where your revenue rates are going to come from. It doesn't have so much to do with electricity rates. And so there's only a certain amount of cost that you can afford in order to make the projects pencil. And anecdotally, I heard a number of those ran into some cost difficulty for that reason. It was certainly possible, but you can imagine when you try to do the construction to put racking high enough up so you can continue to harvest the crops, that costs more money. And actually the time and expense of the labor costs of, like it takes big equipment to put in solar panels, and you're going into what is effectively a wetland. So you have to put in special kind of matting so that you can roll a truck down to get the stuff. And that just costs a lot of money. And when you're doing really small sites, I mean, you've seen and driven by these cranberry bogs, they're not very big. So you're not getting a really, really huge thing. And I think the floating, you run into some of the same issues, which actually I think for our town, the floating, the more difficult place would be to find where to put it. Because the water does need to be fairly calm, and finding a place where you can get it permitted where people would actually be okay with the visual of, instead of seeing a pond, seeing a bunch of solar modules. I would say that strikes me as difficult. I've seen them very, very successfully done in places where no one goes. Military bases, which with excess water and no land. That's the kind of place, but it's interesting. This is all kind of still up and coming, all of these things.
What about Aaron River, the Aaron Reservoir in Wampatuck Park there? That a lot of space there. And
So,
anyway, I got a
Martha-
question for you, Tanya, about siting a solar array. Has the problem with the inverters ever been solved with at the landfill?
Yes, my understanding is they had a breakthrough and have solved or are solving the problem.
So great, let's put more solar panels there. There's plenty of room for more solar panels.
I'm not sure about
New
that.
thing reapproved again and get new ones. So Martha's question actually struck me as something. Has the town, because I'm new, I don't know, but have you looked at providing or looking at putting a canopy on any of the public parking?
So
Yes.
actually, not to interrupt, but I actually was just gonna ask this question about what is the process of us investigating new locations for the solar panels and what's the protocol? How do we get it approved? Where does the money come from? Because there's so many places that we could put them. To Doran's point, can we put it on the agenda for a full discussion next time?
We can, but it turns out there really aren't that many places we can put them. And part of it is people not wanting the aesthetic eyesore. So in 2020, so we've done there was a lot of work done trying to identify sites.
Mhm.
And in 2020, when we put out the request for proposal, we said to the bidders, we said, look, here are some locations that we're aware of and that we have permission to proceed with, mainly the schools. But, you know, if you can figure out locations where we should do this, tell us, you know, talk to them and see if they'll agree. So some of the bidders did come in. In some cases, they had permission. In other cases, they had a letter of support. In other cases, I think they were just looking at a Google map or a Google Earth map and saying, "Oh, that would work." So some of the other locations that were bid, and there was quite a collection, included carports in the town parking lot, carports in the swimming pool parking lot, the community pool / senior center parking lot. There's an ownership issue there though. Carports at Osgood and Deer Hill, carports at the Stop and Shop Plaza, solar panels on the Stop and Shop Plaza roofs, which we are aware of, the roofs of the schools, which weren't ready because they're at end of life, the other landfill, privately held landfill behind the sports complex,
Mhm.
the sports complex, the DPW. The problem with the sports complex and the DPW building is they're not very strong to support panels on the roof. It's not structured to do that. And then there was a bid that came in that would double the size of the existing landfill. Some of these are pie in the sky, right? There's just going to be logistical issues that have to be overcome. But we did have interest. I did speak to the group that manages and owns the land around the pool, the community pool. And they were very interested in trying to do solar heating for the pool, as well as potentially having carports there. But the problem with the carports is once you install them, your optionality goes away.
Yep.
And some people don't like the aesthetics. We heard some pretty rancid comments about putting carports at the schools, even though we had some nice graphics drafted up, because people thought it looked like a gas station and it was not part of the aesthetic of the town. So it's
Even if you think
always
about
open.
behind Wilcott Commons, like between Wilcott Commons and the pool, there's kind of a dead area that has no trees, nobody sees it. It's like a great area that you could hide. Anyway, it just seems like there might be other spots that people haven't considered. And who comes
Yeah.
up with the spots? So is it the bidders? Is it the town?
So it's been both. And the bidders, I'll tell you, don't necessarily know the town well enough, right, to come up with a lot of, I mean, we did get a lot of different locations. But once they're with a private party, they're paying a lease payment to the private party and the savings to the town goes down.
Mhm.
Whereas the town tends to lease for like $1 a year or zero, and we don't charge property taxes for the landfill. And so all of the savings that we're seeing, that $500,000, that is basically covering the credit, and there's no deduction for property taxes or lease payment. We're just getting that in the form of savings. But a private party would want their piece of the pie. But again, I think we can always look. We can always look.
And I
There's
asked two
always
questions.
Mhm.
The first one is, did they do a structural analysis of the Osgood School's roof?
No,
as to whether or not it would support solar?
no.
I can't get that information from any. The other one is, I see where they're looking at renovation slant replacement of the middle high school. I picked that up out of their meeting minutes the other day, and I don't know where that sits as far as roof replacement. I thought that when we redid the high school, that the structure was strong enough to support a solar array.
Yeah, so it is. There's a lot of uneven elevations at the high school.
Yeah.
And so that creates shadow. So you don't
Yeah.
get as much solar
Right.
as you would think on the roof. But when we did go out to bid in 2020, we were told by the school committee that we should not consider the high school, middle school, either the roofs or the parking or any part of that property as a potential site.
Okay.
That they were open to Osgood and Deer Hill, but not the high school, middle school, because at that time there was discussion about replacing the school. And they
Right.
didn't know if they're going to replace it on a different part of the property, if they're going to move to a completely separate property. And they just didn't want to decrease their optionality.
And last question is, did they look at the roof of the American Legion? Which is a building the town owns.
Yep, we did not look at the Legion, but we did look at the police department, fire department. So this is where Select Energy was a very good partner. We chose them to work with us on a number of different sites. So they gave us pricing for the police, fire department, for the library, and for the water plant at Pond Street.
Mhm.
And because they're small, like 80 kilowatts,
Right.
it just, there's economies of scale if you can build a bigger solar energy array, and the transaction costs overwhelm. So we would not, they were basically break even. There were no
They were
net
demonstration projects, basically.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have all that information left over from when we did go out and bid. 2020 was active. We were in the middle of the pandemic, but that did not stop this committee.
Mhm.
Yeah, early on, Tanya and I and some others in the committee actually went for a hike on the roof of the high school, middle school. That was fun.
We did actually, yeah, because we weren't allowed to have people in person come. We did a video tour of each of the sites that the town had approved for potential solar energy arrays, so that the bidders would have the ability to ask questions. It was a live video feed. My kids were doing the video, and we were on top of the high school roof. We were at the DPW building, where the existing solar energy array is, and we did the Deer Hill and the Osgood as well. So those videos are somewhere. I think they might be in
Oh, I must be thinking of an earlier.
you
earlier
are.
committee.
You know what? You're thinking, Steve, of 2013.
Yes,
2012.
that was a long time ago. We
2011,
actually did tromp
2012.
around physically on the roof.
Yeah, we were physically on the roof for the show and tell because it was the middle of the pandemic.
Oh,
So we couldn't have the bidders come and look at the sites. So we did a video site tour. Those
Okay.
videos still might be on the internet under solar RFP documents. Yeah. So some of us are very excited to finally get solar panels on the school roofs. The problem with Osgood isn't necessarily structural, although we've been told it's probably okay. It's more the fact that they go up and they have that inside part.
Yes.
And although there's a lot of equipment that's up there, and the part that goes up means that there's shadow, but there's some very nice sloped southern facing roofs
Mhm.
that could host the panels, and then there's space inside that you could elevate them up and they could host the panels. But there is some concern by some folks in town that a nor'easter would just blow them right off the roofs and just destroy whatever got in their path. I mean,
That's a real concern. I mean, it's a legitimate concern.
yep.
I think there's a lot of data by the manufacturers of the racking and in the modules themselves to support the wind speeds that they can withstand. And you just have to put it in the technical specifications. That's
Right.
And the developer, in all cases, we're having the developer front the money in exchange for a long-term power purchase agreement. So they owned and
Yeah.
operated the panels. So it's on them.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still,
Yeah, I don't think it's a technical problem. There was a lot of fear about it, but I agree with Doran.
Yeah.
that They've dealt with this before. It's not the
Oh,
first year.
it's easily fixable.
It can be addressed for sure. Okay. All right, good discussion and a highlight of what may be one of our priorities for 2025. But before we get there, let's do a quick update on the 2024 initiatives just to wrap them up. As far as I understand from the bylaws committee, you submitted your recommendations, which was no need to do anything. Is that right? And are we finished on that? Do we know where the bylaws stand? Has anybody reviewed
Oh, yeah,
what's
sorry.
happening?
Basically nothing. I think they've been much more focused on things like FAR and very controversial things. But I will go back and double check and see where they are.
Okay, that'd be great. And Tom Callahan had said to me that, yep, it's just cleanup. It's just cleanup.
Yes.
But that always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Because his definition of just cleanup can be quite dramatic.
Yeah.
And
No,
it's sort of what he says when he doesn't want you to be sniffing around at what's going on. So it'd be
No,
good for us to make sure that
understood.
that's not the case.
No, he shared with us his recommended changes to the bylaws, and there was really nothing. It's nothing. But I'll follow up and just make sure that nothing else has happened.
Okay, and I did get a comment from somebody about one aspect of the bylaws that pertains to our area. So I'll forward that to you, Martha, and maybe you
Oh,
can
great.
take a look and raise it with them too.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that's an action item for me. All right, so that's good. Nice work. Good wrap up. Climate Leaders Program, I think I don't know if there's any update from the different component parts, but during the call today with Julia and Debbie and myself, Debbie did emphasize that she hopes that the Climate Leaders Program and the different components required to become a climate leader are addressed as one of our priorities for 2025, or as a set of our priorities for 2025. So I don't think there's any update, but if there's an update on any of the components, now's your time.
I've been on an email stream with a lot of towns reporting in that they've had a lot of success getting the specialized stretch code adopted in their towns. So that's being as a successful effort by the state.
Okay,
These towns.
That's good.
that is good. The more towns that do it, the easier it is for Cohasset to approve it.
Yeah.
As much as we have been a leader in this area, there are some things that can take it too far. But if other towns are doing it, I think it shows it's not so bad. Okay, last thing, and we're at 5 minutes to 9. So I'm going to ask you what you'd like to do. The last bullet is priorities for 2025. We're at the end of the year. This is when we normally look at sort of what we've done and think about what we want to do and focus on in 2025. We then take that information to the select board and get their permission to pursue those priorities that we've identified as far as our actions. And that doesn't preclude us from picking up things as they arise or opportunities that may happen. But it just gives the select board an idea of where we're going to go, what we want to do. And then they can give us feedback. So would you like to do a little bit of brainstorming about this now? Do you want to set it as a homework assignment and use our last meeting in December to do more brainstorming? We don't have to have our 2025 agenda set by the end of the year, but I just put this here as a placeholder, and we could start the discussion or we could defer it to the next meeting. What would people like to do?
Personally, I have to sign off in just a minute, so I would prefer to put it off.
Yeah, I would do that too. And also, I have to request under matters not reasonably known in advance to go back and correct an error I made in my report on the aggregation program.
Okay. All right. So does everybody agree we can just put it as our homework assignment, action item for every member of the committee to think about what our priorities should be for 2025? What are some initiatives that you personally would like to champion or take the lead on? And then we can have brainstorming session and discussion on those at our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Matters not reasonably known in advance. Steve, what would you like
Okay,
to?
I'm sorry. I wasn't very prepared tonight, but I went back and looked at the savings we got for the town on the aggregation program. You know, we asked Good Energy to put these numbers together for us several times. They finally did, and they actually put it in the letter to the residents. It's the second paragraph in the letter, and it's $274 per average residential customer is what the savings was.
274.
$274. And they didn't send me the detail that I did the calculation. They just reported that in their letter. And, you know, I talked to them about it. But so I think I gave a misleading impression, and it wasn't as much as I had thought there.
Oh, but I see where you got it. I'm looking at the letter, November 1st. It says our current, I'm going to read this for the record. Our current pricing has been fixed since March 2023, providing multiple years of price stability. During this time, the program has collectively saved 700,000 for the community. I think that's supposed to be, actually, I don't know what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, it was a typo there. They had,
was it 70,000 or 700?
Yeah, yeah, there was a typo. They meant to say $270, but in earlier draft they said $274. Not that it matters. Round off.
Well, and it does say that, or $270 per average residential customer.
Yeah. Oh, so they meant to say it was a $717,000, but they wrote it as if it were cents there. They left off a zero. They have comma 00. They should have comma 000. 770,000 or 700,000 or whatever. Would they have 700,000? They rounded that off too, I think.
So I just want to quickly do the
Yeah, it's
math.
kind of annoying that they made that typo.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's very bad, because if it's a good point, it just got ruined. So 270. Okay, so it's $700,000.
$700,000 in aggregate, 274 per customer. per
Yeah,
resident.
mine says 270. So around
270.
$700,000 for the community in total, or $270 per average residential customer, not per person, per customer.
Right, per customer,
Yep, of National
per
Grid.
account, you know.
And that implies there's 2,592 customers. Which is
And that's about right.
that
that's
sounds
about
about
right.
right.
That's about, yeah, that's about how many houses there are in town. Um,
And that's just among people, of course, that signed up for the aggregation program or were enrolled in the aggregation program. It doesn't include people that opted out
right.
or had
No.
third-party contracts.
But what it doesn't include is some people who may have bailed out when National Grid's rates went lower, slightly lower than ours, and then came back in,
Mm,
because you can move in and out. You know,
Yeah,
there's a certain amount of fluctuation there.
Mhm.
Do you watch your rates that closely, Tom?
I do. It makes me nuts. I used to do it for a living, so it just drives me insane.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour
Yep.
for the average customer that was saved. But so Steve, there is no calculation.
No, I didn't see any calculation. They just put that in the letter.
Okay, can you ask
They
them
probably
for the
provide
calculation?
the details, but
Yeah, could you ask them for the calculation?
sure.
It would just save some time.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
And we've been asking for this for a while, so I think I don't feel comfortable, especially with the typo, giving these numbers to the select board unless I have the underlying calculations.
Okay. But this has been in the letter that went out to everybody, so it's like with the typo.
I know, but we don't know. I'd like to see the calculation.
Sure.
Mhm.
I think, again, before we represent something,
Right.
and I can definitely, I mean, I have the data, I can do the calculation. I've been just trying not to have to do that, but I will
They
probably.
should provide us the calculation and
They should
something that
provide us.
doesn't
We've
look
been
like a
asking for
foreign
months
currency.
for this.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then we can do pretty charts and put it into a pictogram for the select board. Okay, thank you for the clarification, Steve. And thank you. Yes, it was sitting right in front of me in this beautiful letter that I have. But I mean, it pencils out if that is what we've saved on average. So,
That letter is from Good Energy, is that right?
yes, it's
Okay.
it doesn't say it's from Good
Well,
Energy. It's the town of
it's-
Cohasset.
As far as the residents are concerned, it came from the town of Cohasset.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, it's a Cohasset Community Electricity.
With the Cohasset's logo at the top, or shield, what do they call it? As if it's an official town communication to the residents.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep. And the price is lower by about 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour compared to what we have been paying from the last round. So prices have come down. They've settled down.
Yeah, it's supposed
For
to go up. There's supposed to be a rise on the 1st of December for National Grid.
Yeah, for the transmission and distribution, right?
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Well, natural gas prices are low. And I think we've got a lot of natural gas in storage going into the winter. So unless the war accelerates or big shifts happen, or we get extreme weather events, you never know. It's a very volatile commodity. All right. We're at 9:04. Is there anything else? Matters not reasonably known in advance? All right. I want to thank everybody for your contributions. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks,
Second,
Chris.
second.
Thanks, Tom. Sorry, Doran. Tom raised his hand.
And that's all right.
And
Good.
Martha, just so you know, I think it was the same. Chris, didn't you make the motion to approve the meeting minutes at the beginning of the meeting?
I
I
did.
agree. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Tom seconded. So anyway, we have a motion from Chris and a second from Tom to adjourn. And we don't need to
Aye.
do any discussion. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Bye.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.